Welcome back. My name is Kit.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Streaming Things, streaming The Last of Us. This time it's episode 3 of season 2, The Path. And you will notice that Andy is not here. He is out doing God knows what.
He is out walking the path.
He is. He's walking the path of nuptials.
Mm-hmm. Some tighten ups. That's what he's doing.
Just the bureaucracy of it, though. You know, he's just letting the government know, hey, I have planned to form a union. Do you approve?
He's checking in with old Uncle Sam, like, Uncle Sam, yo, here's the deal. Here's my partner. We're going to be considered a duo when it comes to tax season. I know you want to know that. That's really why you want to know.
We need your approval as to how we're going to file jointly next year. Also, I love her.
Uncle Sam's like, I approve of this union.
I'm not a crook.
Oh, God, Uncle Sam is Nixon. That's where I've been the whole time.
That's what I think. I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man, this episode, we're going to dive really deep into it. We're going to do a full recap and reaction after our initial overall thoughts. And then at the very end, if you're new here, you don't know this, but I'm letting you know now, we got some fun for you. We're going to do our Firefly Moments.
Whoa.
Or the clicker stickers, if you like rhyming more.
I like that one.
Our top 3 favorite moments of the episode. And then we're going to talk about some Easter eggs, references to the game that you might not have caught, especially if you never played it. Bullets and pills is what that section is called.
Pills, baby.
That's right. That's right. And then our Outbreak Performance is how we will end this, nominating our favorite performance of this episode. And that's how it's going to go. You can email the show, as many of you do, at streamingthingspod@gmail.com. And if you want extra bonus content or these episodes without ads, then go to patreon.com/streamingthings. And there's a variety of tiers there. But at the $5 tier and above, you'll get access to all of our Game of Thrones episodes. And we're almost done with season 5 over there. So there's tons of that. All that stuff's over there. If you like the show and you like our irreverent tactics, mixed with just a little bit of Steve's knowledge, there you go.
Just a little bit. There's not much to parse out.
Well, at least I gave you some.
Thank you.
So we're just a duo today. We're Abby and Ellie talking about this episode, and I'm curious to hear
what a volatile couple there, Abby and Ellie. Holy shit!
Oh shit! I meant Dina and Ellie.
It's going to be a very heated discussion. I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to fucking kill you.
I meant Dina and Ellie. My bad. Yeah, it's just Abby and Ellie having a chat about the show.
What's it like knowing that your dad's dad?
I'm really curious what you thought about this episode. Because again, we've both played the games, but you are a much bigger fan. You've played it many more times. And I think that the differences between the show and the game are starting to become a lot more glaring in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm curious where you're sitting with that. So let's chat about it. Steve, what did you think about episode 3?
So like you said, this is the episode I think the show is starting to really diverge from the game in pretty significant ways, I think. That I'm excited to see how they follow up with it in later episodes, because these are things that if you diverge now, it's going to vastly impact how the story plays out later. So I'm excited to see where they go with it. I think this is a good episode. However, I do think it's probably my least favorite of the season thus far. And that really comes down to an issue of pacing, which is interesting because similarly to the game also has a complaint. A lot of people were like, oh, the pacing just slows down, just grinds to a halt, immediately after the death of Joel. And it takes a while to pick back up because, that's such a big moment. It's a high point, and then you have to rebuild the story because you thought the story was one thing, you get that major twist, and now the story's got to rebuild itself into something different. So it's a common comparison between both game and show. However, for me, I think the pacing of this episode is strange in terms of story and structure. But I do think the performances in this episode are phenomenal. There are 2 actors in particular who gave some pretty astounding performances in specific scenes that just hit me in the gut and made me cry. One of them I expected to see. One of them I expected oh yeah, that character's going to probably make me cry this episode when I started watching. But pretty early on, another actor came up and just gave such a heartfelt line delivery that I'm just like, just like immediately just start crying. Very powerful stuff. I really appreciate how the show. I'm conflicted on this because I do think this is part of this leads into the pacing issues that I was talking about before. However, I do appreciate now that the show has taken this tactic of saying, okay, here's Jackson. We had this major battle. That's a divergence from the game. But now that there is that battle, we have to pause what's going on, maybe with Ellie and Joel, because we have to rebuild Jackson. And then there's this whole like, everyone gets to choose. Are we going to go get a posse and take our revenge? Let's put it to a vote. And then it was the most triggering scene maybe in all of Last of Us for me personally, because like I used to film small government council meetings, and that's 100% what they're like. They're always like, we're here to talk about who's going to fix the roads. And one guy stands up and goes, my neighbor has a tree and I don't like, we're not here to talk about that, Earl.
God damn it, Scott. I love, again, Dave Chen's decoding TV recaps of Last of Us are funny for no other reason. If for no other reason, like they're great, but I love the little asides at the end the most. And he's like, poor Scott picked the wrong day to bring up his cornfields on the should we avenge Joel agenda.
Yeah.
Bad timing.
He saw that schedule and was like, well, clearly no one cares about that. They want to see my corn graphs.
Today's the day for me to bring up the real plan. Turkeys over chickens.
Look, I've been working on this proposal, this PowerPoint, and I had to put it off because the town got attacked. And this is my first chance to actually put it forth. And I'm doing it. But overall, I thought this was a good episode. It's probably my least of the three, but I say that with a big caveat saying I still enjoyed it and still had a great time. And I'm looking forward to see where they go from here. Kit, what about you?
I think we're about the same. I almost said I didn't like this episode, but I think I can only say that in comparison to the others. Like it's not even close that it's not even a close call that it's my least favorite episode of The Last of Us this season, maybe ever. I'm not sure if there's one I didn't like in the first season or not. And again, I have played the second game and I really, really like it, but I'm not like, oh, that sign's supposed to be turned the other way or anything like I've never been that guy.
Wait a minute.
I do think I'm going to talk specifically about a few things up at the top just because I want your thoughts ahead. And I do think it's important even for non-game players to know how different things are. Mm-hmm. Just, to have a context for some grievances that longtime fans might have outside of the toxic weirdos that are just going to hate any adaptation of anything ever or make it weird about other reasons for bigoted reasons. But I think Gale, the introduction of that character was at first welcome and interesting, especially because it's Catherine O'Hara and now is kind of grating on me.
Interesting.
I'm not really understanding how she functions in the story anymore and how she will now, especially because I know what's coming, or at least I thought I did. I think the changes between Dina and Ellie's dynamic were also at first really interesting and now kind of not working as well.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
It makes some kind of internal motivations of how things start in this game, in this story, way different in a way that I don't really like.
Their relationship, specifically the way it's structured, and that's part of the reason why I was saying there's like a weird pacing issue with this, is we had this sort of establishment of where their relationship was going in the first two episodes. And then now with this one, it's like, okay, we're actually resetting and starting, and we're kind of going to go do the same thing. And it just feels weird to kind of reset that relationship.
Agreed. I stuttered and hesitated because I don't know how much is a spoiler, because you never know what they're just going to do later.
Yeah.
That has already happened in the games. And then by saying, why didn't they do this? You're actually spoiling show watchers maybe, but.
Like in the first episode when we're like, Eugene actually had a weed farm in the game. That's dope. And then the very next episode, there's Eugene's weed farm.
Yeah, but also,
Yeah.
Shit happens.
Shit happens, Eugene.
You're living on the edge when you listen to a podcast. It's just obviously you like wild style living, or you wouldn't be listening to a podcast.
If you're a podcast listener, you are a freak.
You are
just an absolute danger slut to the max.
If our Discord is any indication, that is true. So in the games, I'll just walk everybody through this. In the games, as I recall, again, when Joel dies, Tommy is there, not Dina.
Right.
And so that whole dynamic's vastly different. Tommy is also very angry, obviously, because that's his brother. And when Ellie goes to ask him to go take revenge on Abby.
He actually goes to Ellie at first. He's the one that, he doesn't go to Ellie to say, hey, let's go take revenge. He goes to Ellie to say, hey, Maria's going to try to stop this, but I'm going to talk with her about it.
Yes. And then Tommy sneaks out without Ellie. And it's kind of read as like an attempt to save Ellie the way that Joel would, like in honor of his brother. So I'm just going to go by myself so that Ellie's not in harm's way. And then Maria actually outfits Dina and Ellie to go get Tommy. So they don't have to sneak out like the leader. And there's no council. Like Maria is like the king of Jackson.
Yeah.
And
she is.
And so Ellie and Dina leave with all their gear given to them by Maria to go save Tommy. So the stakes and the dynamics of everything are vastly different. And Dina and Ellie are already, we'll just say, openly in love and have exhibited that. Mm-hmm. And so the dynamic there is just vastly different. And those are some of the biggest changes. I also thought it was funny.
Oh, there's another huge change too. Well, I don't know if it's a change, but it's a weird way to open with the Seraphites. How they paint the Seraphites in this like, they're walking on the trail and someone's hunting them and they're just trying to find a new
I was going to ask you, I thought the Scarface whistle people were just completely new. I don't remember those at all.
No, they're a major faction in the game. They're the people in the game. They are the people who are sort of in this sort of conflict with the WLF in Seattle. And so that conflict's happening in the background as Ellie's going to Seattle with Dina and everything. But in the game, they're depicted much more harsh and like just very violent religious zealotry. And they're very not welcoming of other thoughts and beliefs.
They didn't give a great vibe to me with the cut faces and the prophet talk.
Right, but there's like these whole like, hello, little girl, we're leaving the war. We're going someplace where there isn't war. It seemed like they were saying they're trying to get out of Seattle, and they were just mowed down by who Ellie assumes wolves. I don't know if that will be wolves. I assume that's what it is.
Well, that's what the guy said after he gave Constance the hammer and then they hide. She's like, demons? And he goes, wolves.
Wolves.
Which is, he meant wolves. Because it's WLF. S. So there's those guys, but also Seth. In the game, you don't see Seth after his like attempt at apologizing, and that's it. And now he's the one, because of everything else that's different, that sneaks them out.
Yeah.
And I think I know what the show is doing here. And it indicates a lack of trust in the audience or something. It's like, hey, let's have the worst guy we know agree with our protagonists and see if the audience can pick up that maybe that's not the best idea. What's funny is they probably still won't. But
and then also have a scene where Gail explicitly tells Tommy like, oh, she's fucked up. That one's lost. We got to let her go.
Some people just suck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not me sitting here wasted at a Little League game.
No.
Believe it or not.
Hey, at least she's honest and calls herself a complete fucking disaster.
That's true. She misses Eugene's good. That sticky icky, that cush. Mm-hmm. She's got straight Reggie all the time now. It's hard to live that way.
I could say this for sure. If Eugene was still alive, number 9 wouldn't have fallen, because number 9 would have had a good coach, because Eugene would have been there coaching them kids. I assume. I'm painting this backstory that Eugene just involved with everything in Jackson.
I think the show did it. Why can our podcast not add even more Eugene lore until eventually it'll be the Eugene of Us show?
Yeah, he came up with the battle plans.
He did.
But they were better because it would have worked if he was there.
The show loves Eugene.
Yeah, it does.
You know how I know everything about the WLF? Eugene. And Eugene drew this map because we were going to go get him right before he died.
You know that awesome weed? Eugene did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That rifle that Seth has that's better than yours? Eugene made it.
With his
and these
hands.
Boots. All right, so we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to do a complete recap. I did like the show. I did like this episode. I mean, it's fun to watch. This is the first episode I've seen in a while where it's like, if this was Netflix and I could watch episode 4, that would have made it so much better. This would have just been a breeze through episode for sure. Because I'm really curious now that the show changes, and I don't mean like adaptation changes; those are normal, expected, needed. But like some specific choices that they've made, like revealing who Abby is so early, and because in the game there's so much tension, you're chasing God knows what in the game. You know what I mean? And I think that's a better way to approach all this now that I'm seeing this. But we'll see. But I just want to see where the reverberations end, or if this is going to be this massive butterfly effect that just drastically changes and kind of dumbs down the themes by the time we get to the end. So I'm just more skeptical than I have been in a while, but I did like the episode. We'll see where that goes. Again, email your thoughts to us so we can kind of see where you're at with things. Because next week, I will physically be across the world, actually, with Andy when he's making his union known to the public, if he agrees on everything, all the terms with the government. And
if Nixon doesn't get to him first.
Marriage is so weird. It's way too bureaucratic. So you won't actually hear my initial thoughts probably on that. So email the show. Let us know what you're thinking. But Steve's got some good guests to fill in for the episode 4 coverage. Let's do the recap real quick. A quick word from one of our sponsors. And we're back for the deep dive. The way that HBO Max describes the path is thus. And it's kind of long. I was like, God damn. After Dina shares crucial information, Ellie prepares to petition the town council, even while she struggles with her deep emotional scars. On the outskirts of Seattle, a religious sect attempts to flee a war, raising questions on what lies ahead.
I see what they did there.
I honestly think how verbose that synopsis is and how much it dumbs down like what's supposed to be subtext is reminiscent of what I didn't like about this episode as a whole. Even while she struggles with her deep emotional scars. Like, we know she's sad that Joel died. You don't have to put that in the synopsis.
Ellie, sad girl. Dina, help. Other characters do stuff.
Exposition. But it starts with the burnt zombies outside of Jackson. They're smoldering, and we cut to a broken watch on a dead body, and some random lady is just cleaning Joel instead of all the other bodies for some reason. It's like the House of Black and White style.
She had finished everyone up. That was the last one she had for her shift.
Assuming, Joel was brought in,
And she was probably stalling because she probably wanted Tommy to do it, and we're just kind of like, all right, it's the last one.
She wasn't cleaning like she was excited about that for sure. She wasn't trained by the waif. She was just kind of dabbing the wrist.
No.
But Tommy enters, and this is the body of Joel. Looks at the body. He takes over the cleaning. He sees the watch and looks at the camera and says, "Give Sarah my love."
Oh, my God. Gabriel Luna. Yeah. I was so shocked in the moment at how hard that line just obliterated me. Like the way his voice is shaking and his eyes are all watery. I'm like, oh my gosh, Tommy, you sweet man.
I had the thought that most pure show fans would have, at least for a moment, went, "Who's Sarah?"
Really? You think people would already forgotten who Sarah is?
I mean, she's in one episode for 10 minutes?
Well, she shows up in like very brief flashbacks throughout the first season.
That's true. I hope not. I hope it hit.
That would be funny if who? That's Joel. What are you talking about?
Is Sarah the lady that was cleaning him? And then the hospital is overrun. There's obviously so many people were wounded in the Battle of Jackson. And Ellie has a punctured lung, I guess. There's like a tube in her chest.
Yeah, because Manny like football kicked her in the stomach. It looked awful. Collapsed her lung.
She wakes up screaming. She's like stuck in that moment where Abby is stabbing Joel. And it's pretty heartbreaking. And that's how we get the title sequences right there.
Did you watch the entire title sequence?
Yes, I never skip.
Did you notice the change they made?
I didn't. I'm not smart. I just don't skip.
So at the very end of the title sequence, it usually has like 2 fungal pieces pop out, and it's supposed to represent.
Is there one?
There's only one now. They took out the Joel piece, and now it's just Ellie by herself at the very end of the title sequence. Yeah, HBO are bastards, man. They knew what they were doing.
She needs a dog or something. That would have honestly This game would have been 20 minutes long if they'd given her a dog.
His name's Jesse. A golden retriever of people.
That's true. The rule-following golden retriever, though.
That's true. A very well-trained one.
This is another big change in the games, I think. 3 months later is the time jump that we get because now we have to reconcile with this giant battle in the town rebuilding. We need much more time. Mm-hmm. And I think there's probably only been a week or two in the game before Ellie leaves.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, so 3 months later, she's been in the hospital all this time and the town's been rebuilding. Tommy, Jesse, and the gang there's this funny little beat where Jesse's like stronger than Tommy. I don't know why they chose to put that in, but I guess just to get a chuckle.
He's the future of Jackson, right? Because Tommy was the leader. He's getting older. He can't hammer the thing as well. And then here comes Jesse looking just like a snack with his biceps bulging out of his shirt. And man, he just makes quick work of whatever he was hammering in there.
I love how Tommy's got a 5-year-old, but also is apparently, according to this, on his way out, almost dead.
Yeah, he's practically dead. Yeah,
Sorry, kid.
I kept laughing at this scene because every now and then in the very upper corners of the screen, the Ace Hardware logo would sneak in as they were building all the shit. It's like, okay.
Some product placement?
That's some weird product placement in our post-apocalyptic society. Sure.
I kind of love it because it's like, it's really hard to work in product placement.
The worst one was actually in the previous scene when Tommy comes in and Corona's like right behind him the entire time. Like, the beer for family. Okay.
I clocked the Corona and thought it was funny. Anyway, we cut to Ellie, who's doing much better. She's doing a final checkup with the doctor. She's passing her like lung test. Her breathing is good, but she has to see the psychiatrist first, which is Gail, the only psychiatrist in town. So the lady who is wasted and high as fuck has to come in and make sure you are mentally well.
Where's my patient? Where's my patient? Do you know?
Doc, you said you were going to give me some morphine.
She does hospital trips for morphine. Yeah, that's her payment.
She's drug seeking. And Ellie, they play it like she thinks she's this master manipulator of a psychiatrist, but really it's just Gail has given up on her. We find out later.
Well, I think in this moment she knows that Ellie's lying to her face because Ellie's really
a liar, according to her.
Yeah, she's a liar, and she's not a good one in this particular scene. Like as the scene's playing out, she's like, because Gail asked, Joel before he passed said that he had harmed you, but he said the reason why he harmed you was that he saved you, and that doesn't make sense to me. And Ellie's like, wow, no, doesn't ring a bell. Maybe I should have told him before to release him from that pain. Well, I guess I should let myself off the hook. Like she's talking very like, this is what the therapist wants to hear me say. And Gail completely knows that, but I don't know if Ellie seems like maybe she's like crushing it. Got her.
For sure. Ellie thinks that she nailed the manipulation, and Gail's like, well, there's a lot of fucked up people in this town, but not you though. And then lets her go because she realizes it's not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. And the shot of Ellie like transforming into her
sad self,
vengeful, sad self down the hallway is really interesting. It's not a snorri cam, I don't think, which is like a rig that they put on their chest.
Yeah.
But it looks like that. It's like I don't know what they did. Really shallow depth of field and a dolly, I guess, is all it was. But it looked interesting.
I really like this episode's cinematography in general. I mean, not only do we get the beautiful sort of wide vista shots that happen later on in the episode, but there's also
the cemetery vistas were crazy.
Yeah, but there's also really beautiful, incredibly tight close-ups of faces in this whole episode that I think are used to great effect. And this is maybe the first example of that happening.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I clocked it for show. When she gets back to her and Joel's house, there's so many flowers laid outside in remembrance of Joel. She goes through the house, which is now empty, and finds this box on the bed. And it's Tommy left her Joel's watch and his gun. And then she goes in the closet and cries into his jacket that he always wore.
That was the second scene that made me just start weeping Belly Ramsey is so amazing. I mean, they got tears streaming from their face, and it's very rare that you see Ellie, the character, that emotional and upset. So it really lands when she's putting her face up to the jacket and crying. It's very effective. I was wrecked.
Yeah, she's taking a beat to let it all out. And then Dina visits her, interrupts her crying, and
that sounds funny. Hey, crybaby.
Kinda. Again, how their dynamic is in the show, they're a little more. It's playful, but they're at odds with each other a lot more than they were in the game, and it's kind of like that.
Yeah, because in the game, Dina's much more like, "Hey, girl, what you need? I'm here. Mm-hmm. What you got?" And I mean, that's
hey, babe.
Yeah, hey, babe, what's up? Let's do it. But and Dina in the show is functionally that as well, but she's more similar to Ellie in a lot of ways than she is in the game.
They're broy. Which is a point that I say on purpose we'll get to, and I wonder what they're doing.
Bro, guess what? I made you cookies.
Yeah, they're pot cookies.
Holy shit.
They got Eugene's special recipe.
Oatmeal raisin.
And Dina came to visit the hospital a lot, is what we find out here. She was there constantly. We just didn't get to see that. She brought her cookies, and she's like, "Oh, just 'cause?" No, it's because I'm about to make you angry. And Dina reveals that she knows most of the names of the people who killed Joel and where they went. And she lied to her because she wanted her to heal in the hospital before she told her this information.
Because she knew Ellie would like rip off all the tubes and that she's connected to and just run out there before she's even healed.
Exactly. And we find out later she wasn't healing. Well, she was, but she wasn't like resting like she should have been anyway. She's been in there doing push-ups and crunches and shit the whole time. And Ellie does get furious at first, and then Dina's like, "Wait a second, I did that for a lot of reasons, but also if we're going to find somebody and we know where they're going, maybe the best tactic is to let them get there," which is fair. Mm-hmm. And then Ellie takes a bite of the cookie. And then her visual acquiescence is that she offers the cookies back to Dina.
But this is a very important line from Dina as well, because she says, "I loved him too, you know." Because that's a show thing, because the show made a lot of points to show that. How do you feel about that, Steve? I'm actually really happy that they're giving Dina a lot more agency in the show than she had in the game. Because in the game, she never spoke to Joel once. And when all this happens, she's just already in this new but budding relationship with Ellie, and she's ride or die Ellie. Like, what do you need? Let's fucking go. I'm with you. But she doesn't know any of the WLF people. She's just there for Ellie to bounce ideas off of in the game. So I do appreciate in the show they've tied her to Joel. Joel's death is more impactful to her specifically. She knows the names of the characters so that she can help guide Ellie as well. She's a much more active participant in the story, and I do like that a lot overall.
You don't think it lessens their relationship because in the game she's just there to support Ellie. She really loves Ellie, and now she's kind of on the mission for her own reasons.
I don't think that lessens it. I think there are other things that happen in this episode that do lessen their relationship that I kind
of
like literally. And that's the thing that I'm like, I don't like this. I'm just not a fan of it.
I think I agree. And we'll get to that probably soon. She tells her that their names are Manny, Owen. One of them, maybe the bald one, is Nora. And then the real bastard is Abby. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to Ellie like, "Abby."
Mel's like, "They don't know my name. I'm good. I'm going to go hide. They'll never see me again."
And she tells him about the patch, the WLF patch. And again, it's kind of clumsy, I think. She's just like, "WLF, I know all about them and where they're at because of Eugene." Yep, pretty much. We did some recon work back in 2003. It's just a little exposition heavy. It's not a huge deal, but yeah. That's so they know that they need to go to Seattle, and they know their names are Manny, Owen, Nora, and Abby. And then, that's when they push the cookies back I talked about earlier. And it's a cool moment. So now what, right? So they got to make a plan.
Those cookies did look fire.
Do you think so?
I thought they looked great.
I like a softer bake, personally. Mm-hmm. You take them out of the oven a little early.
Wasn't it a little soft, like a soft chunky chip?
No, it wasn't too crunchy or burnt, but it just, it didn't Didn't have a good flat circle shape like I appreciate personally.
It looked like a chunky, almost brownie type cookie. I do love those.
Big chunks of chocolate potentially, more like an insomnia cookie style. You think
a brookie?
Yeah. Ooh, a good brookie is great.
Fuck. Can we stop potting and get some brookies?
You think Dina's making brookies in the apocalypse, though? That seems wasteful.
There's a lot of shit happening in the apocalypse that I didn't think would be happening, but here we are. There's someone microbrewing in Jackson with their own little bottles.
I am not surprised by at all. People need their alcohols in the apocalypse.
I mean, that's true.
That's the first thing Andy's doing as soon as we set up camp.
His house is still on fire, and he's got his hands on his hips like, I'm thinking what we could do.
He needs more hops.
Yeah. Let me get my spices.
So they go straight to Tommy to get his enlistment in the revenge, right? And he's like, it ain't that simple, And she's like, Joel would be halfway to Seattle by now if it were you or me, which is a line from the games, but is really funny in the context of it being 3 months later.
Yeah.
He's really slow. So that's true. He would only be halfway. He's old. In fact, he probably got lost. And Tommy says, no, he wouldn't, because
if I was alive, he would. But if I was dead, he wouldn't.
Which is, again, interesting because it feels like an explained thing. Whereas in the game, I think Tommy just says, no, he wouldn't. And it's more like, ooh, why? But basically, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do a lot of conjecture because it is what it is in the show. He says, no, he wouldn't because I'm dead. And Joe didn't see the utility and things like that. It's just not the way it was. You know what I mean?
I think that tracks for his character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also love that Tommy is from Texas, right?
Yeah, they're both from Texas, Joel and Tommy.
So it's funny he uses words like posse, like unironically, because of his Southern roots, right? If we're going to put a posse together, which is what that is. It's a posse.
It's a posse.
But we don't say that anymore.
We got to get torches. We got to get pitchforks, and we got to go find these Frankenstein monsters.
Yeah. Okay. He's a big gothic romance fan.
Yes. We're blending genres here.
Okay. That's what Mary Shelley would have done. Yeah. So he said, we got to do it right to get a posse together. So he has to run it by Maria, which the girls don't like. And he's like, absolutely, I'm not disobeying my wife and the queen. Okay.
Have you seen her?
Yeah. She will beat my ass.
She's awesome.
And he tells Ellie that Joel was buried in a cemetery 10 miles south of town if you want to visit him. And she said, I'll visit him on our way to Seattle, even though it's not on the way because it's northwest. So I'm going to cut through the cemetery. God damn it.
There are several lines that Ellie has this episode where I feel like if you just inserted the sound effect of a gun cocking, it would have been like the dopest thing ever. We'll visit him on our way to Seattle.
Well, there was a couple really corny lines that the show saved by having Dina go Curtis and Viper. And I was like, oh, thank God. And then we are introduced to the Bald Forest Archer Club. They all have these scarred cheeks and they speak in whistles. And I would be fucked if they tried to recruit me. I'd be down. I'm already bald. I'm okay with the scarred cheeks, but I can't whistle.
Oh, no, not at all.
So I'm the equivalent of a mute to them.
So you're the constant in that group. There's that little girl and you.
They probably all right, you're on recon duty, Kit. And then I see some soldiers coming up and I'm just like, I finally give up. They're coming.
I fucking go run.
They would definitely hit me with a hammer and leave me there. You're done. We get this whole bit where little Constance gets her first kill hammer, and that's cute. And
does it make you feel safer?
We hear about another. Yeah, that phase. We hear about another person named Ezra. And he says, distance will keep you safer than a hammer, which is why they're leaving the war. So again, they're like kind of humanizing them more than they do in the game.
But they follow a prophet that has been dead for 10 years.
Their distance from the prophet has made them better people, maybe? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they're 10 miles outside of Seattle. So I think they're trying to put distance between them and the war.
No, I know that, but I thought maybe you brought that up, that the prophet being dead for 10 years is why they're maybe a little gentler as a society.
No, because that's how it is in the game too. When the game starts, the prophet has already been dead for some time.
we'll get to that when we get to the bodies, I guess. But yeah, this is interesting. What they seem to be doing here and why they seem to be doing it this way. And maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but I didn't really like this scene.
Yeah, it feels kind of...
It felt like Disney Star Wars stuff, like the constants and the hammer and like the like shallow lore drops.
It is just weird because you've got this whole Jackson story. We got to go find Abby and the crew. And then here's these people. And you're just kind of like, wait, what? What? Like, I imagine someone who's never played the game was so confused by this.
Yeah, this would have been like a high tier Elder Scrolls Oblivion NPC conversation. But like pretty low tier The Last of Us HBO conversation, you know?
The prophet's been dead for 10 years, but their teachings keep us in the light.
I'm done talking.
You learned how to whistle. Congratulations. Here's a hammer. You've completed your quest.
Hammer added to inventory.
Constance will remember this.
And then they hear some bad whistles, and then this is where they hide in the woods, and Constance asks if it's demons, which I assume means clickers. Mm-hmm. And he says, no, it's wolves, which means WLF, right? Which is worse because they have guns.
Or, hear me out, what if it was literal wolves?
Oh, with guns? The apocalypse is crazy.
Guys, the weirdest thing about the fungal zombies apocalypse isn't even the fungal zombies. It's that the wolves learned how to shoot rifles.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
He's led by Commander Scoob.
And we cut to Jessie training Ellie. She's hitting the heavy bag. She does decently well. They have, again, I love their relationship. I think the actors are really good. They have great chemistry.
Yeah.
A couple weeks you'll be right back where you were, which is 80% of where you should have been. Hey, fuck you. Fuck you. But she's been doing push-ups and crunches while they were healing her in the hospital. Jessie's on the council now.
There was an opening.
And she's trying to play. Yeah, that's true. There was a lot of openings. She's trying to play dirty politics. She's like, "Can I count on your vote tomorrow?" I already asked Tommy and paid him $20.
I gotta say, it's so weird hearing Ellie go Tammany Hall on people. Like, do I have your vote? Can I count on you to show up at the polls, sir? Here's a sticker. Vote for Ellie. It is strange.
Yeah. And he's like, make sure you write down your thoughts. And she's like, oh, because I'm stupid. And he's like, no, because you're angry and no one's going to vote for angry. But he refuses to play dirty politician. He's like, we don't talk about votes. I'm going to vote according to my heart and according to how good your presentation is. I will warn you, I heard Scott is cooking up a whopper of a corn presentation and that's going to throw you off your game. You need to write this shit down.
How are you going to compete with that, Ellie?
People are going to be so focused on turkeys versus chickens. They're not going to be thinking about Joel. You need to bring the heat.
I think Joel's a turkey. He's a real gobbler.
Ellie is last on the list to speak. Scott, again, says that we should invest more in turkeys and less in chickens. And I don't know why, but he talks like Jordan Peterson, and it bothers me.
You see, the real thing you have to understand about chickens and turkeys is that corn is a faster crop yield. And obviously, men are dying off because they're not advocating for their masculine selves.
Turkeys and chickens are just an allegory for gender.
We're laughing, but I'm pretty sure that exists somewhere. Jordan Peterson comparing the genders to chicken and turkeys.
I think we should listen to Seth more. Just me personally.
Seth gets it.
And then Rachel speaks her piece. Hey, a lot of people died that day, not just Joel. Hey, I love you. I love Joel. But we lost like 92 people that day.
Her sister died.
We're not getting vengeance on the other 91 people. But in Ellie's defense, the other 91 people were killed by zombies who are now dead. They already got their vengeance. Mm-hmm. That's what I would point out.
Vengeance.
And Seth is sitting like adjacent to Ellie, and he's like in focus a lot of the time. And they're just like prepping you for, he's about to do some shit you've never seen before in the games, right? Mm-hmm. But real quick, Carlisle stands up, and this is what really gets Seth's goat. Carlisle stands up and says, look, man, we don't get vengeance. That's not what people do. We got to forgive and be forgiven. And Seth is enraged by this Christian ideology. Those sons of bitches don't deserve our mercy. When I called her a slur, she didn't forgive me, and I respected that because that's how I live.
Seth only has one trait, and that is he's phobic. He's homophobic. He's xenophobic.
Sure.
So it tracks that he would be like, they broke into our home, so we're going to take our Second Amendment right to stand our ground.
He's basically saying forgiving the WLF is woke. And if you guys want to go woke, you're going to go broke, Jackson. And I think it's fascinating that they have Seth do this because it's the showrunners early on stating themes you have to really work to get to by the end because you are, as the player, so angry that Joel is dead. I know some really awesome, smart people that don't like the second game, but I do think it asks a level of emotional intelligence that is beyond most video game stories to ask of you, right? It's a really brutal, tough thing to go through. And here they are at the top of the show, just having the worst person in the world being like, I agree with Ellie, and this should give you pause if you do as well. You know what I mean? That's what it seems like.
Have you ever heard of a broken clock, Ellie?
Like, what other reason is there to have Seth do this than to say this is the wrong idea?
Well, I think that it's funny because I don't agree with Seth per se, but I also, Carlisle's whole thing is like super condescending and like, listen, I know your family was murdered, but like, get over it, forgive and forget, my guy. And so I understand like, no, fuck you, dude. That's really not cool to say.
I just know a lot of people are reading this, what they do with Seth, as an arc for Seth.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I'm not reading that at all. I'm reading that he still sucks, and they're making him agree with Ellie to show you how far Ellie has fallen due to her anger, is my read on this. But then it's Ellie's turn to speak. Her little speech didn't really work for me, but she did try. She prepped it. She wrote it down. She looks at Jesse as she pulls out her notes. And she's I would have done this better. She should have been more manipulative. She should have focused on the collective more than an appeal to emotion. She should have said, hey, like Seth said, they could come back. This is a danger to the town, that they know our defenses. They know where we're at. They could tell God knows who, blah, 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 blah. But she's like, it's not about revenge. It's about justice.
It's about you and me and counting on each other.
Yeah, she does all that. And then the council votes very quickly. They didn't have to deliberate at all. And poor Amy Beth is tasked with reading the votes, and it's a 3-8 vote. 8 voted no, 3 voted yes. I'm assuming the 3 that voted yes are Jesse, Tommy, and Maria.
That is what I assume as well. Which is weird.
They all look pretty crestfallen.
You wouldn't think that Maria would. I know, like Ellie wrote
based on the show or the game, she would have, I guess, because she has them go get Tommy.
Well, in the game, it's a completely situation. She's just she's like, we're not sending a posse of people going, oh, you two are just going to go. Okay, go. Like,
yeah, but she loves her husband who really wants to go.
Yeah, but she still doesn't send a posse for him, right? She just sends the 2 that were going to go anyway.
Are we going to keep calling it a posse? Because I don't feel as comfortable as Tommy does.
Hey, it's a hot posse, okay?
Hot posse.
I imagine if they ford a river, it'll be a wet hot posse.
I don't stop it. Wet ass posse. We're going to send a whop for your ass.
What is this show? I appreciate how Ellie sort of she inserted that line, like, I'm going to do what you used to do, Maria, and get justice, because she used to be a district attorney. And so that's why I missed
that backstory.
That's why she's manipulating her there. I did happen to watch the behind the episode thing after this, and the actress who plays Maria was saying that Maria definitely voted yes. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, so okay, yeah.
So I was just confused.
Well, you can tell by their reactions who voted yes, because they're kind of like, what?
And I want to say this here in this scene, because I think this is funny. There's a couple things I want to point out. Did you recognize the guy who played Carlisle?
No.
That's Hiro Kanagawa. He's in a ton of stuff. He's been on show streaming things is covered. He was Captain Tanaka in Altered Carbon. He is Dr. Hyam in Star Trek Discovery. He's Firelord Sozin in the Last Airbender live action show.
Oh, nice.
And then I would be remiss if we didn't go back and correct something from last episode, because I went back and checked this out. Seth was not one of the flamethrowers in the previous episode. We had kind of
I could tell based on the context of this episode, yeah.
Yeah, because he showed up. I'm like, oh, I would have assumed he died. So I rewatched it. I'm like, oh, no, that guy has longer hair, but it's kind of hidden because of his winter cap he's wearing.
Yeah, his gear.
Yeah, and also, if you guys think Seth looks familiar, that's actor Robert John Burke. He plays RoboCop in RoboCop 3.
You did text us that bombshell that RoboCop is a bigot. Yeah, so Ellie storms out. Dina does not stop her. We cut to Gale drinking. Gale was up there watching the whole council proceedings as well. They're really trying to make Gale a thing like Fetch, and I no longer think it's happening. But it sounds like Gale's working for you based on your reaction.
Gale still works for me.
She's drinking, watching the Little League game. Tommy goes up to seek her advice.
Number 9 eats shit.
You know, she's been hearing a lot of people's testimonies and dreams and stuff as a psychoanalyst, and she's supposed to have a therapist is supposed to have a therapist to kind of decompress, and she's by herself. And he's like, "Oh, how's that going?" She's like, "Well, I'm an alcoholic and I smoke as much weed as I can, and I'm a complete fucking disaster. Anyway, what's up?" So he's nervous that Ellie is going to do something stupid. He wants to know what to do, and Gail's like, "Yeah, she's a liar. Honestly, she sucks. She's probably going to die. She's unsalvageable as a person from my expertise." And it is what it is. And she just, it's terrible advice, but admittedly she's an alcoholic.
But I think they're using her kind of what you've been talking about. I think they're using Gale as a device to really show the audience like, Ellie's on the wrong path. This isn't a good thing. This isn't a good situation.
I guess I kind of resent that. I kind of resent the lack of faith in the audience. And it feels like a lot of people have given criticisms to the adaptation that I don't agree with, that they are bowing to, in large part, bigoted, but in general, vitriolic response to the original game that has persisted online for years. And they're kind of hyper aware of that in making this show. And so a lot of people have said that's why they didn't make Abby, really muscular, and that's why they've changed this and changed that. That's why they showed you who Abby was really early on to kind of hold your hand through her having a potential motivation. They didn't want you hating her as much initially, which weakens the story. And I pushed back on a lot of that. I'm like, no, they hired Caitlin Deaver because she worked with Naughty Dog on Uncharted 4. They already knew her and she was not busy that day. That's why they hired her. That's kind of where my head's been.
We're shooting next week. You free?
But now I'm kind of leaning toward maybe they are hyper aware of the vitriol that they got and are trying to get ahead of it with the show and kind of hold people's hand through devices like Seth and devices like Gale. And they are potentially, I don't think so, but potentially kind of reworking Dina and Ellie a little bit to garner less pushback. And that's really gross, but I don't think that's what's happening necessarily. So yeah, that's kind of why I resent Gale, I guess. And because we don't need that explained. We can get there, But again, we'll see what they do. I mean, this is a long way away from fully making a decision on this. I'm just a little worried. I'm more worried than I've ever been. Because
the second game is being split into 2 seasons, right? Yeah. So we've got a long way to go.
But he's nervous she's going to do something stupid. She's a liar is what Gale says. And he doesn't want her to go down the same path that Joel did. And I think people forget that only watch the show that Joel spent a good portion of his life outright murdering innocent people. Angry over Sarah and just primally surviving.
Yeah, there was that episode last season in Kansas City when he was telling Ellie, like, oh, I used to do traps like they're doing to people. Like, I was on the other side of that at some point.
He was in a trap house.
And Tommy left him to go join the Fireflies because he was really upset with what Joel had been doing for a long time. So
I don't like it.
I'm not a big fan.
You better watch your back. You keep up this action, I'm probably going to have to form a posse. Come get you.
I know how you hate them.
What does this even mean?
You figured out.
And then Gale just drops this philosophical bombshell that's incredibly cynical that somebody who got into the field of psychology probably wouldn't espouse. I would think that nurture can only do so much. People are just born the way that they're born. I do like the line. I think they were walking side by side from the very start.
Yeah, they're on different she said they were on different paths. They just happened to walk side by side for a moment.
That's not how I read that. Is that?
Yeah, because she says, you're worried that Joel is setting her on a path that he was on. Well, I hate to tell you, she was already walking her own path. They just happened to walk side by side for a moment.
I'm going to push back, but I could just be, I know you watch every episode twice and stuff, but I think what she was saying was he didn't teach her these vengeful, shitty ways. What she's saying is that Ellie was born shitty, and they were walking side by side from the very start, is what her line was, meaning Joel didn't pull Ellie to the dark side. Ellie sucked already, and they found each other, and they sucked together. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, Gale's saying you can't save Ellie is the main theme of this conversation. But she says some people just can't be saved, and then she takes a swig of that homebrew beer, and Tommy's like, that's fair. And then we cut to Ellie cleaning her gun. She's packing it up. She's got a lot of guns and gear sitting out. It's really funny.
How's she going to pack all that?
It's so funny. She's like 3 pistols and a couple rifles and shit. Dina knocks, and Ellie does such a bad job of covering. Oh, I'm
just going
sleeping.
to bed. No, I don't think you are.
And Dina's like, let me in. I'm alone. And she comes in. She already knows what Ellie's doing. And she's like, so what's your plan? And Ellie's like, kill Abby. Okay. What's your route? Northwest? And I actually love this scene. Dina has already plotted an entire route all the way to Seattle. And she's like, you got just weapons, or did you get, food and medical supplies? What happens if you twist your ankle on the way or get a fever? I don't fucking know, dude. Like, she didn't think things through practically the way that Dina did. And Ellie's going to use Joel's gun. And then Dina's like, well, save it for the end because that gun sucks. You're going to shoot your eye out.
You're going to do an Earl and shoot your ass off.
That's right. You're just like Earl. They're going to share a horse, which is Shimmer. So they have to, for practical reasons. And you're not crossing open country in fucking chucks. You're going to need boots. I've done it before. And Dina puts her foot down about the foot gear.
Yeah, the chucks thing is funny because that's what Ellie wears in the game. So it's the show being like, that's cool, but it's impractical. You need boots. Those
things, I've worn chucks for most of my life, and they will fall apart on any serious hike for sure. And then I like the moment too where Dina's like, you could have just asked, and Ellie's like, I didn't know that. And then Dina's like, well, now you know, and they agree to meet up at the gate at 3 a.m. Dina's going to go get all the supplies. She knows a guy, which I guess is Seth.
Yeah, because Seth packs their saddlebags for them.
Yeah, because he had a friend who's sympathetic to their cause in the stables.
Janine?
Our cause? Look, you're the one that said all that fucking we shit.
But also, yes, I would die for this plan. This is my whole life's identity now.
So Dina shows up.
I've been wanting to rebel against the government for 25 years.
I don't pay taxes. I don't believe in it. Jackson doesn't even require taxes, but I still tell him I'm not paying just for fun.
Just for fun.
That's what I do.
Do you know what it's like to be me living in a communist society? It's infuriating.
I'm a libertarian, and I have saved all of Jordan Peterson's podcasts and put them on vinyl records for everybody who wants them. No one has requested them yet, but they're there.
But an iPad full of them is in your saddlebag. I highly suggest you take a listen on your way.
She's on her way to Seattle. The thing about masculinity is...
Back when men were men.
Ellie, you got it. If you just clean your room, you won't be mad about Joel anymore. I I do love the line too. He's like, I would come with you, but I got hit with some friendly fire during the fight. And Ellie says, are you sure it was friendly? Maybe somebody shot your fucking ass on purpose because you suck.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to trade rifles because his is better. So
it's
he's better. And then Seth gets a handshake from Ellie, and the gate shuts and they're off.
Mm.
Ellie and Dina do take a deep.
I do not like the handshake. I just don't. I really wish he would have reached his hand out and she went, and like did the psych on him. That would have been so fucking rad.
Well, it's interesting because I think in the game, the whole point of the Seth character is just to show how Ellie holds a grudge, and that's important thematically.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in the show, I think she's shaking hands with the devil in this scene, and you're supposed to realize she's off on a mission that she shouldn't be on, because the only guy we know in that town who definitely sucks is the one supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason I can imagine to include this in the show. But
yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, I listened to the director's commentary, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the episode, the behind the scenes thing. And Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin definitely talked about Seth, and they talk about it as like, oh, Seth gets a little bit of a redemption this episode. And it's like, no, I don't like that at all. Yeah.
Ellie and Dina are, they do take a detour to the cemetery, and she stops at Joel Miller's grave. I hate to out myself as a noob here, Steve, but I did not understand the coffee beans.
Joel loves coffee.
So do I.
I mean, that's basically it.
You just gonna drop some espresso on my grave, Steve?
I think it's strange. I feel like they mentioned it in the first season how much he loves coffee, because I forget which episode it is, but I know the two of them had a conversation about how much he loves coffee. In the games, it's hammered home a lot more just how much. Like, I think Ellie jokes like, God, he would sell all of his equipment if just for one bag of beans. And Ellie hates the taste of coffee, so they would often jokingly sort of.
Like, well, I do remember that, at least from maybe the game. Doesn't she like try it and hate it?
I don't think she tries on screen, but she talks about like, I tried it, not for me. I know in the second game, there's also a moment where Dina and Ellie happen to walk through like a coffee shop, and Ellie's like, man, Joel loved coffee. And there's a long conversation about it through there. But it's not as big of a thing in the show, I don't think, because I think it's only commented on once in the first season.
Interesting. But the cinematography, it's like golden hour looking, sunrise. It's the vistas are beautiful, and you've got like, it's kind of interesting visually because it's this wide open world of beauty and possibility surrounding them, but they're stuck in this cemetery because they can't see the beauty of the forest due to the ugliness of a few of its trees, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Is the way that it comes off to me. There's a brief montage of travel, and then we see them like playing road games where they're talking about, I guess, naming their favorite band of each letter. And
yeah, they're going through
Dina's taste in music is horrible. Because like Frank Zappa over.
Yeah, like I respect Frank Zappa. No shade to Frank Zappa.
I still wouldn't go over Fleetwood Mac, but I respect that. But Guns N' Roses over Green Day is a wild choice.
I mean, she's just.
And I'm a Guns N' Roses fan, but that's a wild thing to say.
But they both love Ozzy Osbourne.
They switch games. Ellie's bored of this game. We could just travel in silence. Dina's not having it. Okay, new game. Tell me about the first person you killed.
Jesus.
Okay, what?
Yeah. But then it's funny because then Ellie tells a story about someone she technically didn't kill. Because the person she's talking about shooting, when she shot that guy, she didn't kill him. Joel killed him. Mm-hmm. Because after she shot him, he rolls off Joel. I think the bullet does paralyze him from the waist down. And he's like, please, if you can just take me to my mom. And Joel's like, go back into your hidey hole. I got to finish this guy off. And Joel kills him, which I just think is interesting. Because I know in the game she does kill that guy, but in the show they make it a point for Joel to actually do it.
Remind people who the first person was that's too dark for her to tell.
That would be Riley. her best friend slash love interest from when she was younger. The two of them ended up getting bitten together in the mall. Riley was going to join the Fireflies, but she wanted to have one last night with her best friend Ellie beforehand, so she took her to the mall. They got bit together, and Riley said, like, maybe we can just be poetic and shit and lose our minds together. Riley turns, Ellie does not. Ellie has to shoot her best friend when she turns into an infected. It's very sad. It's one of my favorite episodes of the previous season. I think it's Left Behind is the name of the episode.
Flashback episode or a DLC episode.
Yeah, the DLC episode.
But it's interesting because she can't really tell Dina that story, not because it's too dark, but because it involves her being immune to the virus.
Mm-hmm. And that's still a secret that they're keeping.
Yep. And then it's raining profusely, so they are stuck in a tent together.
I do love before the scene happens, Dina's like, hey, do you see any outcroppings or anything we can take cover behind? And Ellie's like, what? Why? Whatever. And then it starts pouring rain immediately. So Dina has her shit together. She's a much better survivalist, pragmatist. Like, she knows how to survive in the world, where Ellie's just got the ambition and motivation to move forward. Which,
to your point, like, gives her more on the positive side of an active role in this mission, maybe too active of a role, you know, when it comes to the themes and what it does, whether or not it detracts from their relationship about why she's there. Mm-hmm. It also might not make a whole lot of sense because presumably Ellie spent a lot more time traversing the country than Dina has, I would imagine. I mean, her and Joel were out there for months together.
I don't know how much they'll get into Dina's backstory, but I know Dina, I think, is originally from somewhere on the East Coast, I think. And her sister traveled to Jackson.
Like Philly?
Maybe. I can't remember what city. I think it was East Coast. I could be mistaken about that,
too. What if Dina's secretly like, I'm walking here. Hey, take the subway. I'm soak 'em, Ellie.
Hey, this type of pizza, the kind of pizza is the best is the kind you fold.
They're forming some kind of posse. So they're stuck in the tent together, and Dina says goodnight. They turn off the light, and then she turns the light back on. It is too tense. It's tense. They're if you're a game player, I think you're expecting something, and the showrunners are messing with you. They're edging you. Because Dina turns the light back on and she wants to ask about the kiss, rate it from 1 through 10. Ellie says a 6.
6, that sucks.
And she's like, just go back to Jesse then. And she says, I already did.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one that was like, girl.
And Ellie, well, there's a very obvious reason they had to say that.
If you played the game.
Yeah. And then he says, you know, there's this weird scene about Dina, like, does Jesse ever seem sad to you? But anyway, the whole point that you need to take from this is that she's like, well, we kissed because I was super drunk and you were super high. I don't like necessarily that they have Dina go, yeah, but you're gay and I'm not. So I want to know if I'm a good kisser.
Yeah.
We didn't need that. It makes it like really queer baity and weird that she's always like I love how Isabella Merced is playing Dina. And I really, really do. I think the character is awesome. But in this moment, like just that line kind of recontextualizes her playfulness as like a weird teasing of Ellie.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody who potentially is in love with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the whole like rate it 1 through 10. Because my boyfriend won't tell me, but I want to know what my gay friend thinks about how I kiss. You know, it's just like, it makes it kind of weird.
And the fact that she's already just gone back to gotten together with Jesse again, and Ellie doesn't know that. It's a very strange scene that I'm not a huge fan of, honestly.
But the only thing that saves it for me is that very last line where Dina takes the time to say, Ellie, I wasn't that high. And that gives me hope.
We're holding out hope. We're holding out for a miracle here.
That gives me hope. And then we cut to where Ellie and Dina make it to the point in their journey where we saw the whistle people.
It's like a Seattle bike trail or something.
Yeah, they were out there exercising.
Yeah. We got to get our steps in, okay? That's what the prophet says.
Now, what do? We whistle when there's bikes coming and we get off the path to let them through.
2 blows means on your left. 3 blows means
wolves.
Yeah.
With guns.
It's like the three horns from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah, White Walkers. And she realizes the guy that died was shot while running away. She's kind of playing detective. Oh, different calibers. Probably not Fedra then, because I guess Fedra have like standard issue guns and wouldn't have a bunch of different calibers.
And this couldn't be this couldn't be Sand People because they always attack in single file to hide their numbers. Mm-hmm. Only Imperial Stormtroopers can be so precise.
But it couldn't be Stormtroopers because they hit their shots. I'm confused. Dina comes out vomiting, and Ellie goes to inspect where she went into this little clearing, and there are a lot of dead bodies. Basically, the entire Whistle People crew. You call them Seraphites. That wasn't mentioned, so I have to keep calling them Whistle People for the show watchers.
It's in the captions.
That's cheating. I don't like it. And we focus a lot on little Constance, who is now dead. The hammer did not keep her safe, and she was not able to achieve distance.
No.
And
honestly,
this is what
a hammer is a bad weapon to have when you're defending yourself from a gun. She brought a hammer to a gunfight.
That's true. He should have given her a Glock. Can I have a Glock, Daddy? Do you want one?
Does it make you feel safe?
Yes. This is the part that I hate. And I'm not sure I can talk a whole lot about why. But Ellie goes, if this was fucking them, meaning she now believes or is ready to believe that Abby and the crew, Owen, Nora, Mel, who's unnamed, Manny, murdered all these innocent people on their way home. I don't know how much I can talk about why I hate this so much, Steve. This sucks.
This scene exists so that Ellie can put in her mind, these people really are monsters. Like, not only did they come to our town and kill Joel, now they're killing women and children too. We are on the righteous path to bring justice to these wolves.
Right, but what the show did, I don't think Ellie needs that motivation. I think it lessens her vengeful hatred of them just because of Joel, and it kind of like is a hat on a hat for why Ellie is doing what she's doing. But also, it looks like she's right. Not necessarily that Abby did it. I don't think that, like, the timeline doesn't even make sense. It's been 3 fucking months. Like, how slow do you think they're walking, and how, like, these bodies haven't been dead that long? Mm-hmm. But the guy uttered wolves before we cut away from them. So we do think that WLF has killed them, because you said in the game there's like a war between them or whatever. So like it gives us this, oh, these people do suck enough to deserve to have Ellie to come after them, that I don't think we need. I think that cheapens the complex moral dynamics of everything. What, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're also, I think, Dina and Ellie believe that the WLF is a small crew because they've never heard of the crew before. We've only seen these people. Oh, there can't be that many of them because we haven't heard of them before, whatever. This is the first sort of clue that I think they should take, that there's more than we think. But they don't take that hint. And then the show later on shows the audience like, no, there's actually a lot of these people in this town.
In the game, I don't think we have the whole Eugene told me it's the WLF, and they're probably small because I haven't heard about them in a while.
Correct.
And so they're always marching into the unknown.
Yes.
Which I think is cooler and scarier.
Yes.
Whereas in the show, they have them just overconfident that there's a small group of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that lessens how ready for craziness they are. You know what I mean? But I guess it's kind of cool that they were wrong, and we get that at the end of this episode. It's 9 miles to Seattle. They keep on going. We see the cool Seattle skyline. She quotes some Curtis and Viper and tries to drop some badass lines like, it's quiet, too quiet. And then, there's about to be a whole lot less of them.
Was that Curtis or Viper?
That was just me. I was trying to sound badass.
Oh, you don't need to try.
Yeah, a little bit of extra flirty there. And then we cut to Manny up on the walkie in the tower. He's up there, keep an eye out for movements.
He's in the Seattle Needle, right?
I think so.
Because the camera kind of pans over to it.
The shape made sense. And then we see we're moving up to the fob. And we see 2 WLF tanks and then like 100 foot soldiers. So there's a lot more than Ellie and Dina think there are, and that's how the episode ends. They are overconfident, walking into God knows what. Oh my God.
My God.
And that's how this episode ends. So that brings us to our Firefly Moments, our clicker stickers, our top 3 favorite moments of the episode. But first, a brief break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Hello, Stream Fiends. As April showers bring those famous May flowers, we're reminded of the growth and renewal that spring offers. It's a time of refreshing rains and new beginnings and questioning whether or not the tomb is empty. But before any of that, we want to sprinkle some gratitude like a gentle April rain. So let's give a special April shout out to all of our supporters on Patreon, but a special shout out to our super patrons. These fantastic supporters contribute $25 or more each month, helping our podcast bloom and thrive like a well-tended garden. So thank you to Xander Barbarian, Daniel Pack, Nice Guy Eddie, Taloon, Jordan Garvin, Albus Stinkpot, Haley, Maddlestat, Susie Callahan, Anthony Corona, Jim E, Lady Trashley, Sean Myers, Just Liz Calabria, Mike from New Hampshire, Brett X, E Scramo, Lil Tickler, Svento 7, Jay Scramo, Bloffpum, AK Ashley Ray, Adam Busby, Upside Down Canuck, Big Butthorn, Jair Latanowicz, Kaylee Sampson, Rabbit Dog in a Barbie Car, Elpander, Alexis Adler, Peaches, Emmy, Haley B, Joe Velez, Trisha Bueller, Alex G, Sun-Loving Mortal, Suzanne Rode, Jadinklage Morgoon, Kalisha Reeves, Paula Garcia, That Brenda, Aaron Armstrong, Seriously Black 82, Ashley Powers, Casey McCain, and Enza. So thank you all so much for supporting Streaming Things. And with that, let's get back to Streaming Things. Okay?
And we're back with our Firefly Moments, our top 3 favorite moments of the episode. Steve, what was your number 3?
My number 3 favorite moment, I did have a little bit of a trouble making this list, and I'll explain why at the end. I did had to do some shuffling around to make a list that was more interesting to talk about. But my number 3 is actually a moment that I don't think you liked, and that was Gail at the Little League game with Tommy. I just love Catherine O'Hara, and just her sort of sassiness and the whole premise of the scene taking place at the Jackson Little League game, and she's just like, number 9, boo, just getting drunk, and then Tommy showing up and asking her about what to do with Ellie. It is, I think, hand-holdy for people who have not seen the show yet to kind of be like, this is what we're doing. This is the theme of the show. Please listen to Gail. But I think just Catherine O'Hara is just so magnetic, and Gabriel Luna is also incredible as well. So I just like those actors and I like those characters a lot. So just seeing them interact in an interesting way was enough for me to give it one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, I don't have an interesting 3 favorite moment list. I think I would have to lie to make it interesting, because I like the episode as a whole. I've talked a lot about that, but like in general, I didn't like a lot of these moments enough to like wax poetically about them. So I have my top 3 are all very similar and centered around one thing.
Oh, we might have had the same one.
The same top 3 list?
Yeah, that I had to restructure to make it not be the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, because you're a good person. So I'm just going to put number 3, Ellie at the grave of Joel Miller, putting the coffee beans down. The vista's beautiful. We get to reconcile there. That's all I got for that, man. Your number 2?
My number 2 is Tommy in the very beginning, where he looks at Joel's body and says, "Say hi to Sarah for me."
Ooh.
Or give Sarah my best. What a gut punch. Wasn't expecting for Tommy to make me cry so early in the episode. And like, it just came at me so fast. But a scene where the characters really sit with the consequences of Joel passing and that character no longer being with them. It was very important, and that's my number 2. What about you?
My number 2 is when Dina shows up while Ellie is packing up to go, and she's already got a route plotted on the map, and she's got a better idea of like the different supplies that they'll need. But the way that she's just so, I'm going to bed, and then Dina's like, I don't think you are. I just really like that scene when Dina shows up ready for action. That's my number 2. Your favorite moment of episode 3, Steve?
My favorite moment is when Ellie cries into Joel's jacket. when she's wandering around the house and it's empty, and then she sees his jacket, and just because clothing can like hold a person's smell for longer. So when someone passes away, it's you often will smell their clothes just to be reminded of them.
Smells like cigarettes.
Smells like cigarettes, Lieutenant Dan. But Bella Ramsey plays that scene so well, and it just wrecks me every time. I've seen the episode twice now, and I cried in that scene at both viewings. So very powerful stuff.
My number one is the same moment. I just think it's very necessary to show Ellie alone in that house, in the place where Joel has always been, and kind of hammer home like a Seraphite would the fact that Ellie is unable to exist there now without more closure. She's walking around. You can't see her happy, walking from room to room, jamming in her garage with the house empty. She's got to go do something. And
even that one moment they added in where she looks into what was her house, or I'm sorry, what was her room before she moved out into the garage. And you can see a little bit of a tinge of regret for having done that, I think. Yeah.
The empty bed. It's how her heart feels now.
My original top three, her visiting his grave was my number three. I'm like, I can't have three moments where people's like, Joel. So I threw in the Gale thing.
I had Ellie crying on the jacket in the grave, and then you thought I was going to do the Sarah thing, I think, but I had to throw in Dina getting ready because I really do. I love Isabella Merced as Dina. I really, really do. Which brings us to our bullets and pills.
Pills, Steve, baby.
Take it away. I think you have a lot more intelligent things to say about the game as somebody who's played it a lot more. Obviously, I had the watch. You can talk about that. I think the shoot your ass off thing is a reference to something Joel used to say to Ellie all the time, if I remember.
I didn't write that one down if it is.
I think so, because she even goes in the show, heard that before. And I think Joel taught her like how to store the gun. And
you're right. I think in the first season, she put a pistol in her back belt.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's really dumb.
And then, the Seattle skyline's kind of a shallow cut, but
iconic.
They did that well. It was very iconic. Yeah. But what do you got?
Well, I mean, we kind of went over and talked over some of the stuff, like the whistling that the Seraphites do. Those sound effects are 100% lifted directly from the game. Like those aren't just new, because I actually played the level you meet the Seraphites for the first time the day before this episode aired. And so that, like, I'm like, oh, there it is. That's the whistle. And obviously the logo on their back, that's the Seraphite logo. We talked about the coffee beans a little bit beforehand. We mentioned Curtis and Viper. The flowers at the house, when Ellie goes to Joel's empty home, there's all these flowers and well wishes and stuff. That's something directly lifted from the game as well, because she goes into his house. This is immediately after he's killed, like a week maybe has passed. And so it's still winter time. So the visual of all these flowers and notes and stuff are like on top of like snowbanks that are up on the fence. And it's a pretty powerful image. And then when we go into the actual house, this isn't an Easter egg from the game, but when Ellie goes to her room, we see more Nirvana posters, Etta James poster, more space, and there's moths in her room, like pictures of moths, which is important because the moth is on her guitar neck. I think, is it part of her tattoo as well? Or I think that's wrong. But moths are a big thing with Ellie. And I think it's funny that they keep focusing on Nirvana for her, because Nirvana is a band from where?
Seattle.
Yeah, little nod there. When we go into Joel's woodworking bench, a lot of the stuff that you see him working on are things directly lifted from the game as well. Like as Ellie, you walk through the house after Joel dies and you see a lot of the same things. It's the main beat, but you as the player are the one that has to go through his empty house. And so like the duck that's there is something that he whittled. I think some of the paintings that are hung up in the house are the same paintings that are hung up in his house in the game. The watch and gun scene plays out almost exactly how it does. The little girl, her name is Constance in the Seraphites. She gets the hammer. She's so happy to get it. Constance is a character in the game, but she's not a little girl. I don't actually think you see her. She's one of the characters that you see or you hear about when you're picking up notes and reading notes that sort of build the lore. Constance is actually a village elder of the Seraphites and has been like with them for a long time. I guess if memory serves, I think Constance is one of the Seraphites that actually had met the prophet before they passed away. So it's just kind of interesting that they tied that character from the game to this little girl. I think that was intentional. But also, 2425 Constance Street is a semi-important street in the game, and we'll see if that actually ends up being the case in the show as well. We'll just have to wait and see. It's not important enough where that's a spoiler. I'm just saying that's like an Easter egg, I think, if you know what that is. There's more Radiohead and Matrix posters in her room when she's boxing with Jesse. And then I already talked about Seth and Carlisle and their actors. So that's all I have for this episode.
Which brings us to our Outbreak Performance, our favorite performance of the episode. I think you're about to drop a bomb on me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll be honest with you, because I didn't really love anything anybody was doing. So I'll just have to think about it while you talk, I guess. I'm just being honest up front here. But I mean, I didn't hate anything either. I just wasn't like, wow, on anything. But Steve, what do you got, buddy?
When the episode started, I immediately wrote down Gabriel Luna's name just because that very first scene, like, oh my God, that hit me. That was so shocking and powerful. However, I'm actually going to give it to Bella Ramsey in this episode. Bella had just as powerful an emotional scene when she's in the closet with Joel's jacket and the tears streaming off their face and just seeing Ellie have these emotions. Bella was amazing in that scene. They're doing the most in terms when you compare them to all the other cast members. They're being silly, they're sarcastic, they're trying to lie and being bad about it. And then the scene with Dina and Ellie in the tent, there's some struggle and heartbreak happening on there. So I think Bella has the most range of emotions she has to do in this episode. And so I think they deserve this award. Even if you take all that out, though, they still deserve the award just for that scene with Joel's jacket. That was really powerful and hit me really hard. So I'm giving it to Bella.
I agree. I think it was between Gabriel Luna and Bella Ramsey for me. It's the only possible answers. I was worried you were going to toss me a Catherine O'Hara grenade. I do want to shout out, I truly do love, I've said it many times, Isabella Merced as Dina, and also Young Mazzino as Jesse. I think they're super likable, super fun characters to watch. And
they're great as Jesse.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with those characters in the future, especially Jesse, to see how they kind of keep working him in. But
it's kind of nuts. Remember when, like, the first season when Pedro Pascal was going around, and Bella Ramsey as well, we were just like, man, it's almost like those characters were directly lifted out of the game. Jesse just feels so like you just copied and pasted that person in a good way from the game. Like it's so one-to-one, like they're killing it. Yeah, it's awesome. But I am going to give it to Bella Ramsey, I think, just because of what they're asked to do. Like you said, along that spectrum, it's just a lot more diverse and impressive. I really like, it might have been a hat on a hat, but I really liked that they showed that scene of her kind of waking up, stuck in that moment, screaming in the hospital. And then a lot of the smart ass fun stuff that we get with her and Dina, as far as Ellie and Dina on the road. Yeah, I think it's an obvious, just give it to Bella again kind of thing situation. But I'm really excited for episode 4. I hope they surprise the shit out of me, and I'm still all the way in. I was just like, more than I ever have been watching this episode. So follow our coverage. Next week, we'll get some more streaming things, Last of Us coverage. It'll be Steve and I think friend of the show, Alex. Look forward to that. We love Alex.
Yeah,
Physical Media Channel, rise up.
That's right. I will be out in the Caribbean, but I will be watching the show over there because that's what I do. I'll be in the hotel watching The Last of Us instead of on the beach. But you can follow our Game of Thrones coverage, our Midnight Mass coverage, and soon to be Firefly coverage over at patreon.com/streamingthings. Thank you so much for supporting the show if you already do that, or just listening. We appreciate that if that's what you're doing. It means the world to us. We'll be back. So, we've got no more time right now. We've got to go return some videotapes. My name is Kit.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Streaming Things, streaming The Last of Us.
Happy streaming.